Hello friends and students, welcome to TP Chennai. Happy morning ma. Today's vocabulary: epidemic, EPIDEMIC, bicker, BICKER, eminently, EMINENTLY, congregate, CONGREGATE, epidemic. So what is epidemic? An outbreak of a contagious disease that spreads rapidly and widely in a community at a particular time. That is what we call it as epidemic. But what is a pandemic? What is the difference between epidemic and pandemic? So it is affecting even the big geographical area. That is what we call it as a pandemic. Are you getting? So epidemic and the pandemic is affecting even more geographical area. All pandemic can be epidemic, but all epidemic cannot be pandemic. All pandemic can be epidemic, but all epidemic cannot be pandemic. Clear? So anyhow, what is epidemic? A disease can be declared as epidemic when it spreads over a wide area and many individuals are taken ill at the same time. That is what we call it as epidemic. But if the spread escalates further, an epidemic can become pandemic, which affects even wider geographical area and a significant portion of the population becomes affected. That is what we call it as pandemic. COVID-19 pandemic, coronavirus, right? So synonyms: rampant, outbreak, widespread, rife, contagious, pandemic, explosion, endemic, eruption. All these words can be related to synonyms. Antonyms: limited, local, slum, doldrums, calm. All these words can be related to antonyms. Example: in 1888 there was an epidemic of yellow fever. Poverty in this country has reached epidemic proportions. That one also given as a one more example. Ma, clear? Bicker, squabble, argue about petty and trivial matters. Argue about petty and trivial matters. Ma, what is trivial? Unimportant, silly. Hope you remember, we already discussed trivial, TRIVIAL, unimportant, silly. So argue about petty and trivial matters is what we call it as bicker. Synonyms: argue, squabble, quarrel, disagree, altercate, wrangle, hassle. All these words can be related to synonyms. Antonyms: agree, get along, accept, consent, concede, conquer, make peace. All these words can be related to antonyms. Example, best example: all wife and husbands usually bicker over tiny issues. True na? Me too. Eminently, to a great degree, significantly, so very. That is what we call it as eminently, prominently. Clear? Synonyms: greatly, remarkably, notably, highly, deeply, totally, exceptionally. All these words can be related to synonyms. Antonyms: unimportantly, hardly, barely, just, marginally, negligibly, scarcely. All these words can be related to antonyms. Example: the movie is eminently worth watching. The movie is eminently worth watching. His family was eminently respectable. His family was eminently respectable. The book is eminently worth reading. The book is eminently worth reading. Congregate, to gather into a large group, to come together in a large group of people or animals. So gather, that is what we call it as congregate. Synonyms: assemble, collect, convene, bunch up, meet, congress, team, rally. All these words can be related to synonyms. Antonyms: disperse, scatter, divide, separate, distribute, spread. All these words can be related to antonyms. Example: a crowd congregated around a city hall. some hundreds of demonstrators congregate at a border point. One more example can be given. Ma, hope you are clear. That's end of today's session. We will meet tomorrow.